time to check out another comic bento box. The theme for this box was the little guy, meaning either quite literally the little guy or just the underdog trying to overcome some huge obstacle. So let's take a look and see what we got. So we'll start off with Project Superpowers Chapter 2. This is a softcover trade paperback. This didn't do anything for me at all. The artwork is fairly decent. It's got a very painty style to it. It's a Chapter 2, but it is a self-contained story. I have to give Comic Bento quite a bit of credit because they do also provide you with a code for a digital download of Chapter 1 of Project Superpowers. So if you did really happen to enjoy this story, even though it's self-contained, you can go ahead and download the first chapter and check that out as well. Next up, we have Witch and Wizard, Battle for Shadowland. This is actually a hardcover. At first glance, it looks pretty promising, even though this cover artwork sort of reminds me of some cheesy teen novel. Witch and Wizard is the story of two siblings that discover they have magical powers and then, of course, have to try and save the world, etc., etc. The artwork just didn't do it for me. It's very flat. The story also didn't really grab me all that much. So despite the fact that it's a hardcover, this is my second least favorite book in the box. Alright, now we're starting to get into the good stuff. We've got a miniature-sized AntMan trade paperback. This collects a number of different AntMan stories, all of which are pretty decent. It fits the theme, obviously, the little guy, not to mention the recent release of the AntMan film. So again, it's good. You get a number of different stories, also accompanied by a number of different art styles, some of which are really attractive. I love the manga sort of art style in this mutual respect storyline. The colors are great, the pencils are great. And then you get into some stories that look a little bit more animated, and then one that looks literally like it's lifted straight out of the cartoon. Overall, though, a fun little collection of AntMan stories, a superhero who's definitely in the spotlight right now. So this book was really interesting. It's called Divinity from Valiant. It's a high-concept sci-fi adventure about this cosmonaut who takes off into space and encounters something that sort of changes him, and then it's really interesting. The artwork is great, but again, the story just grabbed me. It was different from other things I've read. So this was a nice surprise in this book. It does feature some Valiant heroes like XO, Man of War. Again, you know, I'm not, as I said last month, I'm not a huge Valiant fan, but this was definitely an interesting story this month. And finally, that brings us to my absolute favorite book of the box, The Life After, Volume 1. The Life After follows this guy named Jude, who starts experiencing some very weird things and comes to realize that he's actually in purgatory with everybody else for suicide. And the only other person that he encounters that kind of realizes what's going on is Ernest Hemingway. And then they, of course, have to go on this grand adventure to save all of the souls in purgatory. And you know, the art style is interesting. I love the color, but it's like a very unique and interesting story. And so I recommend this to everyone. If you see this on the shelf somewhere, you should definitely pick this up. Again, it was my favorite book of the month. I've never even heard of it before, so again, if not for Comic Bento, I would still be oblivious to its existence. But now I have it on my shelf, and it's great. So and it's a good thick book. You get a lot of reading material here. This book alone was cost more than the Comic Bento box. So quite a bit of value there. So there you have it. We got 5 trade paperbacks in this month's Comic Bento. A lot of great reading material here. I went ahead and added up the cover price of these 5 books, and it comes out to $68 worth of reading material. So for $18 a month, that's roughly what you're getting from Comic Bento. If you'd like to get your own, you can check out the link in the description, and we'll see you next month.